Welcome back. Today in current events from a Christian perspective, well, we are in full sacred secular month, so let's check in and see how things are going with the culture of pride. Then we go to Washington, D.C., where a lovely children's choir is forced to stop singing the national anthem because, well, apparently that is too controversial now. I wish I was kidding about this one. Then we go to Africa to check in on our brothers and sisters in Christ in Uganda because, wow, they are in trouble for doing things that are, well, kind of biblical. All this and more today. I'm Ed Odegaard, and this is Church Public. Welcome back to Church Public. I'm Matt Odegaard, your host as always, and really appreciate you stopping by, audio listener. I love you. Thank you so much for being a part of this platform. I really appreciate it, and this is all for you as well. If you want to see the video, you can go to the video sites, the video places, the YouTubes. Sometimes I'm on there, sometimes less so these days, but we'll see what happens there. In addition, of course, you can always go to churchpublic.com. So thank you so much for your help and support. Hit the like, the subscribe, the share, all the buttons. If you want to support, you can go to churchpublic.com/support and help me out. This is a labor of love, just trying to help people understand what it means to live out their faith as they follow Jesus through this wild and crazy culture that just seems to be getting crazier and crazier. And that really is the bottom line. Like we're in a place where the culture is moving away from what this Christian foundation is, and that's just the reality of it. So we have to really figure out what we're going to do in that, and putting your head in the sand and pretending that everything is okay and thinking, oh, well, I think it's just going to be fine once it all washes out, it'll just get back to the way it was. I hate to say it because some people don't like when I say it, but it's not going to go back to the way it was. That's just not the direction that we're going in this or any Western country at the moment. But that should not crush our hope because we still have Jesus, we still have his presence, and we are the church. We are the light of the world. We are the salt of the earth, as Jesus himself has told us through the Gospel of Matthew, among other places. So we have hope. We have hope in what we have. We have hope in who he is, and we continue to go forward to live out our faith, even though consequentially, sometimes things are going to get a little bit worse than they have been in previous generations. And that's okay because as some have said recently, and I have as well, we were made for this time, or for such a time as this, if you like the biblical language, which of course I do. All right. So let's look at some updates to Pride. We've talked about a couple of things. I'm not going to get too deep into this, but there was one that I noticed, and that was actually brought to my attention on the Twitters, and I think this one is interesting. This is by a Twitter user called End Wokeness. So if you are not watching, I will try to describe what's going on here. This shouldn't actually be very hard in the first instance, but then it gets a little bit trickier as we go on. So again, go to the video if you want to go to the video. Anyway, I'll describe what we've got going on here. So their point is, they say, I haven't seen so few corporate pride logos in years, and then says Bud Light effect ? Which I think is a thing. But I did check these just now, in fact, and I think every one that I checked of these is not a rainbow pride logo. This is very interesting to me because last year I also checked, and they all were, as far as I could find. So you've got Lyft, Amazon, Hulu, eBay, IBM, NBA, American, NHL, Uber, Coca-Cola, Target, Apple. None of these have changed their Twitter profile to the Pride logo. This is very interesting, and I think this is something that we need to stop and think about because this is actually great news. The conclusion, or the question about the conclusion by this Twitter user is this the Bud Light effect? Maybe it's the Bud Light effect. Maybe it's the Target effect, where, again, as you remember, in Bud Light, Dylan Mulvaney, the person who is a man who is being a girl, and huge TikTok star, been to the White House, has like 28 different brand. I don't know what it is at this point, but a dozen plus different brand deals. And they made a can with Dylan's face on it, as a girl, as a guy. Anyway, whatever. So that they've lost, I think the last I checked, I didn't pull that number up today, but a couple of days ago I checked, it was somewhere in the $22-27 billion market loss because of that. And then you have, of course, Target, who put the packing swimsuits and binding swimsuits and onesies for toddlers in the front of their store. And they have lost, I think they were at 14 billion market loss. I should have looked up this number, but it was in the billions, both of these in the billions. And now for Pride Month, which they did last year, these companies have not changed their logos. I think that's fairly interesting. I think there may be something going on here, and I would just say keep doing whatever it is you're doing. Of course, we don't want to be violent or rude or any of those things. However, we can keep pushing back, and we can not buy things from companies that we don't agree with, because why would you? Why would you support something that doesn't care about you? So that's interesting. Let's see. I got a couple more here. We have, Major League Baseball. So we talked about the Dodgers. We talked about the Dodgers with the, I don't know how to describe this, the gay, trans, anti-Christian sisters, nun debacle that had sparked some common sense, right? If you forgot or didn't notice, what happened was for their 10-year anniversary of Pride Day, the Dodgers invited the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, which is a mostly trans, though also, I don't know what, I can't keep up with all this, people. It's a bunch of mostly guys who dress up as nuns and do things like a hunky Jesus contest and other blasphemous actions against the Catholic Church specifically, but Christianity more broadly. So the culture, and people in LA especially said, no, we're not doing this. And Dodgers said, okay, we won't do this. And then the LGBTQ AAIP hashtag ++ $squiggly emoji said, oh no, you have to do this. So then they said, okay, we're going to do this. And so all of that to say, apparently Major League Baseball for June 1 put up this rainbow and new Pride logo. And then June 2 apparently took it down. So again, people just keep saying, hey, we don't like this and we don't want this, because apparently it is working. And I'll just, I love to see it. So let's keep going on in that. Let's see. Did I put up? I don't think I put this one up right now, but let me see if I can put it up really fast. I don't know if I can. Anyway, there was one more logo that I didn't get a chance, I guess, to put in, and that's fine. But what I wanted to say about another group of logos that I saw was, I saw this group of logos, and this group of logos was, again, various different things, which was fine, right? It was fine that there were various different things. And while we're talking, I'll see if I can pull it up here, but there were various different companies, and for the this Pride Month, they put up logos with the flag in them and whatever, right? So they went ahead and did that. Let's see if I can pull this up for you. Dun, dun, dun. I don't know if this is going to work or not. We'll just see about pressing this button. Okay, so let's try. Nope, I don't know if this is going to work. Let's try this one. Okay, hey, there it is. So here's something. I just think this is interesting in terms of logos. So again, if you're not watching, if you're just listening, I apologize, but I will try to explain this. I do think a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I think this is an interesting point here. You've got companies like BMW, Cisco, Lenovo, some other things, but they have their rainbow logo for the Western world, Europe, et cetera, et cetera. But for the Middle East, specifically other countries in the Middle East, their logo is just the same. Now, this goes back to what we were just talking about as well, but I think it's something that we need to pay attention to, and maybe more than we have. And so I think a couple lessons to draw. Obviously, what we're seeing is companies like Budweiser, Target, et cetera, and apparently all these other ones who have not changed their logos this year. They are clearly connected to dollars, and they don't want to offend their audience that leads to this loss of revenue. However, from a Christian perspective, we can draw something else beyond capitalism here. this Middle Eastern view where they haven't changed their logo in the Middle East. I think there's something to this. And I think this is beyond capitalism. All of these countries are largely Muslim in majority. And we know that that culture does not allow LGBTQ, AAIP, #++. Yet in Christianity, foundationally, we are the same. We are the same. I know we're not the same, but we're the same in that in Christianity, God has stated that marriage is between a man and a woman, Genesis 1. And Jesus said the same thing in Matthew 19, etc. That's it, period. Marriage is between a man and a woman. So all these other identities and marriages and family orientations are just not biblical. So why do the corporations bow down to the Muslim states but laugh in the face of Christianity? Is it possible we've become so soft in our own beliefs that we don't care what this culture does? I think that's the lesson to draw. And I think it's interesting that these companies do stop short of offending certain religions, but they just don't care about Christianity. So what do we do about that? Can we stand more firmly in Christianity and in our biblical values? And maybe based on this view that there are fewer logos this year, maybe something is happening. I don't know. We're going to have to see. Only time will tell on that one. Okay, let's keep going. I had some other commercials for the month. I don't know if I'm going to play them. There is, and this was not this year, but Ford brought out a Raptor that is the very gay Raptor. I'm not saying that about them. They literally titled their Raptor the very gay Raptor. It is a Raptor that is rainbow colored. They came up with this. I think it was 1 or 2 years ago they came up with this. And I put the ad in. I don't think I'm going to play it for you. It's 2 trucks and they're driving, and then one of them is rainbow colored because it's the very gay Raptor. Because all of your guys, all of your manly men down in, the farm and in the woods, they're saying, what I really need, I just can't even, people, what I really, really need in my life is a gay Ford Raptor truck. Like that's what's going to make my world better. Right. I don't understand the marketing strategy here. Like just percentage wise, right? Just percentage wise, the percent of people who are in this, and who really, really want to live out this lifestyle in such a prideful way, and what you really, really want to drive around every day as your work truck is a very gay Raptor? Like, really? Like that's your marketing ploy is, we've got this. I mean, you rough neck guy, construction guy, whatever, the truck that you really want is the very gay Raptor. I just don't see that as a great marketing plan. I mean, what do I know? And then I also had Converse. Maybe I'll play the Converse one for you. Let's take a look at this.
When I think about queer, I kind of think that it's unique in our own special way.
Not all labels fit everyone.
I hope that everybody in the queer community feels empowered to be themselves.
I'm proud to be free.
I'm proud to be unapologetic.
I am proud to be authentic.
I'm proud to be uplifting.
I'm proud to love who I love. I'm proud to be me, and I'm proud to be loud and proud. Pretty big heart of gold.
So yeah, again, that's Converse. I had to look down. Yeah, I am actually wearing Converse right now. I may have to burn them. I don't know what to say. I've been a Converse wearer for, I think, all my life. I mean, I don't know how young I was when I first got my first pair of Converse, but I have worn Converse for a long time. And after watching that, I don't really want to wear Converse anymore. Anyway, let's just look at this ad for a minute. And we'll see. YouTube might not like that ad. We'll see what happens. Anyway. So I'm very proud, right? It's living loud and proud. So number one, I just have to say again, I know you guys get tired of me saying this, but pride is not a virtue. It's in no religion is pride a virtue, except for secular humanism that apparently we are all just in and we love it. But biblically, we'll just turn to, from a Christian perspective, pride is not a virtue. Pride becomes before a fall. The Proverbs are full. I mean, I could just open to probably any proverb in this Bible next to me. I'm not going to do it, but I probably could open to any one and would have some verse on how pride is not great. So no, it's not a virtue. We shouldn't be proclaiming that this is the value we want to have. The value that we want to have is pride. Like, no, people, no. That's number one. Okay, number two. I have questions. If you were really proud to be authentic, as you said in the video, would you really need constant approval from literally everyone to prove to yourself that you were really proud? I don't buy this. Like this doesn't really make sense to me. And if you were just listening, again, many of the people in the video were fairly clearly men dressed as not men and other things. I don't know what to say about any of this anymore. But if you were really proud and you were proud to be authentic, like you are authentic in who you are, you're authentic. Why do you have to dress differently and change yourself differently so that people will notice that you're not who you are or what you regularly look like because you're different, but that's what makes you proud? Do you see where I'm going with this? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Not to mention this whole idea that apparently gender is a social construct and it's not real. Sex may be real or biological or something, but doctors get it wrong. This is the argument they have. So gender is not real because you can just change your gender and gender is whatever you want it to be. However, why then are there men who dress like women? That doesn't make sense to me either. If gender is just a construct, then there is no such thing as what a man looks like, and there is no such thing as what a woman looks like. And yet we have these men, even in this Converse commercial, who are clearly men dressed something like a woman. Doesn't that eliminate your whole argument? Like, if there is no gender, then what you wear, what you look like, the makeup you wear, the way you do your hair, the guy that had giant pokey nails on, wouldn't that mean that doesn't make any difference either, except that you're assuming the look of a woman in gender while being a man in gender, but that's what makes you proud? Again, I get really confused. The gymnastics that are required to get to this conclusion are very confusing. That's number two. Number three, if you are in fact proud, going through number one and number two, if you are in fact proud, why then do you need me or anyone else who's watching this commercial to affirm you? Why? If you are proud, and just let's put on pride, which we're scripturally not supposed to do, but what if we did? If we just put on pride, if you really were proud of who you are, you shouldn't care what anyone else thinks. That's like the definition of pride. The definition of proud is, I don't care what you think. I'm proud and I don't care. But this whole commercial seems like it's just seeking affirmation. And to me, that just signals incredible insecurity, which really is the opposite of pride. But again, maybe I don't know anything. That's just what I see. All right, let's move on from this because I'm tired of talking about it. Okay, so we have a children's choir. This is a children's choir in the capital, in our nation's capital, who were singing the national anthem. And they were made to stop singing the national anthem. This has really happened. I'm going to play a little bit of it. I think I have one angle and then maybe another angle. Let's take a look at this. Oh, they're wonderful. Ooh, this is verse 4. I have chills. Verse 4 is my favorite verse. I'll talk about it. And if you're not watching, there was a guy, and he walked up, and he said, "Nope, you're done." They didn't get to finish the best and last verse, but they didn't get to finish because they were told to stop. I've got another angle of that. Let's watch this. This is just the end. So in the back of this, you can see this female Capitol Police officer who is making a phone call, arguing. She grabs this guy and says, "No, you have to go and stop them right now." And that's what's happening in the background of this. And so this other guy comes up and says, "Nope, you're done." And the conductor is just like, "I guess we're done." And he closes his book, and everybody's like, "What in the world just happened?" Yeah, it's crazy to me. So this is Rushing Brook Trill and Squire. They were allegedly told to stop singing the national anthem in the Statuary Hall in the U.S. Capitol. And you see, you kind of still see it on the screen here. I pulled it up. That this Capitol Police, they step out and they tell this guy, who apparently is a congressional aide, to go and stop this. Matthew Lays, who is the poster of this video, and I think the conductor, said they were told to stop because, quote, "Singing the national anthem could be considered a form of protest, and there is no singing or protesting allowed in the Capitol Rotunda." They're singing the national anthem, people. The national anthem. They're singing it. And these are kids. And they sound amazing as kids, by the way. As a person who's done a lot of music and choirs and things in my life, I know they missed a couple notes. I don't care. I had chills the whole thing. It is incredible. I love it. They're singing the national anthem, and the national anthem could be considered a form of protest. And so you're not allowed to sing in the Capitol, except for the fact that apparently March 10th of this year, there were Sean Foyt and a bunch of people did some worship music in there. And then apparently on March 29th of this year, there were around 80 congressmen and pastors who were singing Amazing Grace in that exact spot, and they were allowed to do it. So what is going on here? I don't know. But when you cannot, as a kids choir, sing the national anthem in the literal capital of America, I think something has gone wrong, right? No, maybe. I don't know what to do with this, people. Like, this is where we are as a nation. Like, you burn down in a peaceful protest a city, that's fine, peaceful protest. You sing the national anthem in the capital of America. It's too much protest. We can't have that. I am almost, I know I'm not, but I'm almost speechless. Like, it's unbelievable. So a couple takeaways from here. One, the kids sang brilliantly. I'm not kidding when I say I had chills through most of that. It was beautiful. I wish I could have been there for it. And maybe I'm a little bit rebellious, but if I had been that conductor, I would have gently moved that person back who said to stop and said, "I'm going to finish this verse with the kids," because yeah, anyway, but I'm glad it wasn't me. So then number two, the Capitol Police not letting them complete the song and trying to explain that singing the national anthem is a form of protest is just unbelievable. I don't know what to do with that. So they sung incredibly. I loved it. The Capitol Police, like, what in the world are you doing telling kids you can't sing the national anthem in the capital of the United States of America? And three, here's another thing. Apparently, the Capitol Police said that they did not have, this is just according to an article that I read here. Let me just see where I got this article. This is from sorry, Daily Signal is where this is from. Apparently, the Capitol Police said that it's a protest and they didn't have the right permissions, but they did. They had permission from a couple of different people. Let's see, secured permission from 3 congressional offices. South Carolina Republican Representative William Timmons, Joe Wilson provided documents giving permission, as had the Office of the House Speaker himself, Kevin McCarthy. And after this, Kevin McCarthy even put out a statement that said, "We will pay for you and your airline tickets to come back and sing in the Capitol whenever you want." So clearly somebody got a little big for their britches and said, "Hey, we just can't allow this kind of thing." But Why did that happen in the first place is the question. Where do you get to the place, even just as a human, like take Capitol Police out of this, as a human, and you see children singing the national anthem in the capital of the United States of America, and you think to yourself, I've got to stop this. This is terrible. How do you get to that place in your head where this is okay? I cannot figure that out. So what I wanted to do, because I said that the fourth verse of the Star Spangled Banner is my favorite, and because most people don't know the fourth verse, you may, and I hope you do. But if you don't, I just think it is so good. I'm going to read a little bit of it for you because I think it's worth it. The fourth verse is, "Oh, thus be it ever when free men shall stand between their loved home and the war's desolation," right? So we're talking about this time when the war is over, but everything is destroyed, but you are free and there's disaster, but you still feel that, right? It goes on to say, "Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation." I mean, such good words talking about how we fought this terrible battle and yet now are in this place where we are in a new environment and we are creating, creating this new country. Then it goes on and says, "Then conquer we must when our cause is just." Here it comes. "And this be our motto, in God is our trust." And then this choir, I have chills even now. And this choir goes out and does this beautiful explosion of harmony. In God is our trust. I love that. And I think it is really funny if you watch the video in that moment is when the Capitol Police officer like kind of goes a little bit crazy. I'm going to play it for you again. Like, let's watch, listen to this, and God is our trust, and watch in the background the Capitol Police officer. If you're just listening, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you, but and then of course, and the Star Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave. We all know the end of part, but and God is our trust. So let's watch this. And if you're just listening, I'll kind of point to some things as we're going through. Here it is. You just see her right there. She's freaking out. She's like, "You got to stop this right now." That's what's happening in the back of the video. And they're singing, "And God is our trust." And it is such I've chills again from it. Like, it just is so good. But I think it reminds us that, as Paul has said in Ephesians 5 and 6 and other places, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the spirits, principalities, the rulers of this world that are very angry when we say we're going to not live for ourselves. We're going to not live for pride. We are instead going to live for God. I love that they were there and sung this. I hope they get the chance, as the speaker asked them, I hope they get the chance to come back and do it for real. Apparently, I don't know if I have it listed here, but they actually had 4 or 5 songs that they had checked ahead of time that they were going to be singing. It wasn't just the one. Yeah, I have it here. That was the first of their songs. They were going to do the Star Spangled Banner. Then they were going to do America the Beautiful. I wish I could have heard that. Like, that would have been amazing. Then they were going to do My Country 'Tis of Thee, another fun one. And then they were going to do a song called I Bought Me a Cat by Aaron Copland, which is not my favorite, but whatever. They're kids, so they're singing it. I Bought Me a Cat. That's funny. And then finally, Love Divine, All Love's Excelling, which is a phenomenal song as well. And I can't play it because the Capitol Police said, no, you don't get to sing these songs in the Capitol Rotunda. If you can't tell, I'm just a little bit burned up about it. Okay, let's keep going on. If you've got time, I've got time for one more. We'll try to get through it quickly here, though it's kind of a complicated one. I'll try to explain it the best I can. You're always welcome to check my work. You don't have to believe anything I say, really. I just want to try to get you faster into this place where you can live out your faith. So Uganda is under fire. And what I mean by that is people are really angry with the country of Uganda, which, if you didn't know, is in Africa and is not in America. But Americans and Westerners more generally are very, very angry with Uganda, the African nation. And why are they angry? They're angry because Uganda has signed a death penalty law for quote unquote aggravated homosexuality. Now, many of the news outlets are saying it's an anti-gay law, and that's not exactly true. It is for aggravated homosexuality. So the president has signed into law this tough new anti-gay legislation supported by many in this East African country, but widely condemned by activists and others abroad. That's according to a news report. The version of the bill by President Yoweri Museveni does not criminalize those who identify as LGBTQ, though there is law in the bill about that, but we'll talk about that. But the new law still prescribes the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality, which is defined as cases of sexual relation involving people infected with HIV/AIDS, as well as sex with minors and other categories of vulnerable people. So, in other words, if you... I don't even want to talk about this, but we have to. And the reason we have to is this has moral worldview implications, and it shows us just how far down this rabbit hole, this cultural milieu, this world has gone. And that's the problem here, because we have lost our north. We have lost our reality. We have lost the place where we can understand what truth is and what morality is. So a suspect convicted of, quote, attempted aggravated homosexuality, end quote, can be imprisoned for up to 14 years, according to this legislation. Museveni had returned the bill to the National Assembly in April, asking for changes that would differentiate being identified as LGBTQ and engaging in these acts. So lawmakers passed this early in May. Homosexuality was already illegal in Uganda under a colonial era law, criminalizing sexual activity against the order of nature. And that is a quote, against the order of nature. The punishment for that offense is imprisonment. So this was an add on to that law for people that had sex while knowing they had HIV and not telling people, and had sex with minors. There's no easy way or great way to talk about that. Now, here's what we have to talk about, though. It's Biden's response and other responses. The UN had a large response as well, but I'll talk mostly about Biden's response today. His response is that Uganda's law is a tragic violation of human rights. So his report said, quote, the legislation is a major blow to efforts by the United Nations, Western governments, civil society, and rights groups that had implored President Museveni not to sign it. The United States, United Kingdom, European Union all condemned enactment of the law, saying it undermined equality and the right of all Ugandans to live free from discrimination and persecution, end quote. Then we have to hear what President Biden says in his words. He says, quote, it is a tragic violation of universal human rights, and his administration would evaluate the implications of this law on all aspects of engagement with Uganda. So, questions that I have about this are, what human rights is Biden or any of these other nations, what are they talking about? What human right is this? And we're once again back to this foundation of law and morals. And I don't want to get into it too much because we've already gone 30 minutes and you guys will probably start like napping or just throw your phone out the window. But we have to talk a little bit about it. We have to talk a little bit about what is morality, what is a law, and where do they come from? Because if you've listened for a while, you know that here we talk quite a bit about that because it's important to differentiate how we get laws, how we figure out what morality is. And I still have people who say to me, you cannot, or they say you should not legislate morality, or this more masked statement of the same thing. Why should our laws apply to them? And that is the right question. Why should our laws apply to them? But unfortunately, most people come to the wrong conclusion. They want to ask the question about us and them and our laws and their laws. And they want to come to the conclusion that we have no business saying something is right for us and them. They want to say, you do you and live your truth, and we're going to do us. Though Biden's whole standpoint here is that he's doing the same thing. But people want to say, you know, you can't legislate morality. You can't tell people how they're supposed to live. You can't tell people what they're supposed to do. They have their own laws. They have their own morality, and we can't possibly impose on that. It would be wrong for us to impose on that. But why? Why is that true? And Biden, in this case, is doing just that. He's saying this LGBT rights is a human issue that everyone should have, and everyone should be LGBT or something. I don't really even know. That right, according to him and the UN and the United Kingdom and all these other countries, it goes beyond borders. It's not bound by borders. It's not bound by your laws and our laws. It's just the law. It's human rights. And in one sense, he is correct that there are laws that go beyond borders because they are just right. They are just true. However, to figure out what rights those are, we have to figure out where the rights come from in the first place. And this is the problem that people just get snowed into. They hear something like this, oh, it's against human rights. It's an assault on human rights everywhere. Why? Where are you getting that information? And how do you come to that conclusion? Biden and many others would say that rights come from the culture. Let me try to give you this view. Maybe this will be helpful. I came to this understanding a little bit ago, a few years ago now, and I think this helps in conversations like these. There are two main views here. There really just are two. One, you have rights that come from outside yourself, and they are universal, timeless, and unchangeable. These rights are just existent, and they come from something that you did not create, and no one around you created. So they're universal, timeless, and unchangeable. They just are, because we are humans, and I would say because God is God. Even our founders knew this when they said you have inalienable rights by your creator, right from your creator. These rights come from outside of you. That's view number one. Unfortunately, that's not where most people live. They live in view number two. View number two is you have rights that come from the culture, from the majority, from the 51%. Whatever 51% of people think, that is where your rights come from. Then, based on whatever way you see the origin of these rights, you create your laws to protect or prosecute people. That's just the reality of it. That's the way that these cultures operate. And you have to understand this part. In the West currently, broadly, United Nations, United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, America, we are living in number two. We are living in this place where we are ruled and governed by the majority. We are ruled and governed by whatever the culture says is the most positive thing. We are not ruled by scriptural reality. We are not ruled by objective reality, biological reality, natural reality. We are not governed by those things anymore. And that's why we have questions of what is a woman, and no one has an answer, because we're not governed by things that are real anymore. And so we're governed by this majority. But the reality is, really, we're not governed by a majority. We're not governed by a demos, a democracy, a 51% rule. We're governed by a very loud minority who pushes their agenda on everyone. And we saw that through the shutdowns. We saw that through many other things, some World Economic Forum stuff. We're just seeing that now. We're ruled by this very loud minority who pushes this agenda, and they have the power and money and reach to do this. So you should know, this is getting into history, and I'll spend like a minute on this. You should know that this was not always the case for America or the West more broadly. We used to live by this code, this tradition, this standard that comes from something outside ourselves. That's what I mentioned in the Declaration of Independence. The writers of the Declaration knew this as well. This standard that came from outside ourselves. And I constantly point back to the Bible, to God's truth for our morality. And I think that is actually evidence here in this Ugandan story, which is why this is an important story from a worldview perspective. They are informed by the morality of the Bible. They are informed by the morality of older Anglican, English, British church. Their church was established by the British church. And now they don't want this new cultural morality of the present age that says everyone has to be LGBT or else. That's what Biden is saying. That's what the UN is saying. That's what all these other nations are saying. They're saying it's a terrible attack on human rights if you don't allow this new way. So back to Biden. What is the human right he's arguing for here? Is it the right to have gay sex, especially with people who have a terminal sexually transmitted disease? Is it the right to have sex with children? Like, I literally don't understand what right he's trying to ask for, but apparently he says by not allowing those two things, which is what the law does not allow, it's an assault on human rights. That's what he's saying. Make sense of this for me. I don't know what else to say, but that's where he's coming from. And what Biden and many others are saying is this is denying a human right. And I can't figure out what that human right is. But Biden is not just saying words, he's threatening action. He said, quote, "We are considering additional steps, including application of sanctions and restriction of entry into the United States against anyone involved in a serious human rights abuse or corruption," end quote. So he's saying, if you do these kinds of things and say bad things are bad, then, or there's only one gender, male and female, or males and females should be the ones getting married and having a family because that's actually how you have a family. If you say that, or you say that as a country, and you say that if you do evil actions to other humans, you should be punished for those actions, apparently that is a human rights violation, and he is going to sanction you for that, even if you're a country in the middle of Africa. This seems to me like a colonization of the West by LGBTQ AAIP activists. It seems like this is the extension of why there's a pride flag on many embassies all over the world. American embassies have pride flags flying on them all over the world. America is exporting this and expects the countries will just accept it. And some countries are saying, no, I don't want to accept this, both for spiritual reasons, as in Uganda, where they are bound by their spiritual reality in the church that is a national church, but also for a family reason, because they say they want families to flourish and survive. And in order for families to survive, you need a mom and a dad and kids. Like, that's just the definition of actual family. And without that, you breed a sterilized nation that doesn't have children or families. And these countries are saying that. But America is saying, well, if you don't accept it, we're going to punish you. And you have the entire left outraged by this. But you even have some of the right saying this is an abomination. This illustrates how far we've moved into a secular space instead of basing our beliefs on actual truth. I was going to give you an example of a couple of right-wing people who have pushed back against this, but I don't think I'm going to today. I think all I'm going to say is if you are right or left or Republican or Democrat or whatever, what we really need to do from a biblical sense is talk about what is real. And I vote for the first way of determining morality and laws, in that I don't think I should be the one to set morality or laws. I don't think you should be the one to set morality and laws. I think God has already set morality in place through his kingdom, through his scripture. We can read that and know what those are. And then we can talk about what laws we should do. We should talk about what laws should come out of that. But we shouldn't just invent laws because we feel like the culture should be a certain way. That is just a path that leads us to laws persecuting people who don't agree for whatever reason, whether it's spiritual, scriptural, or familial, like from a family perspective. If we go down that path, then people are going to get persecuted for their identity even more than this administration thinks current people are. And from a Christian perspective, we have to say that immoral behavior is not good. We just have to do this. And this is what's hard in this current cultural situation, because you hear love is love, and love is love means accept whatever I'm doing and don't challenge me on it. I saw this funny meme, I should have clipped it, that took Jesus' words that start with judge not and scribbled out everything else. And all that was left was judge not, because that's essentially what we're asked. I laughed because we're asked as Christians to just judge not. That's it. The rest of it doesn't matter. But that's not what Jesus is saying. Jesus is saying, yeah, you need to check your heart, make sure that you're okay, do the best you can by following God and living in the fruit of the Spirit. However, we also are the salt and light. And Jesus says very specifically and intentionally, you're not supposed to put your light under a basket so that no one can see it. You're not supposed to hide the salt so that no one can taste its saltiness. You're supposed to say, hey, there are better and worse ways of living, and I didn't make these up. God did. We should live by them. 1 Corinthians 6:9 is a great example of this. Paul writes, do you not know that unrighteousness will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither the sexually immoral, idolaters, adulterers, homosexuals. This is not my words. These are God's words. And it's not just homosexuality. It's idolatry. It's immorality. There's a lot of things that make you unrighteous. That's the bad news. That's the reality of the bad news of life, of who we are. Romans talks about that in 1 and 3 and 5 and 6, that we have trouble on our own. However, that's also the good news of the gospel in the rest of Romans, that we are far from God and we can't make our own way, which is why it's such a great gift that Jesus has paid our way through, he has paid our debt through the cross. And by following him, by repenting, by leaving our old ways, we can find new life. I think I'll end with this. I'll end with Ephesians 4, because we were studying Ephesians 4 this week, and I really like it. I hope you like it too. I'm going to read this, and we'll end up here pretty quick. This is Ephesians 4:17. So, I tell you this and insist on it in the Lord, that you must no longer live as the Gentiles do, in the futility of their thinking. They are darkened in their understanding. They are separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to the hardening of their hearts. Having lost all sensitivity, they've given themselves over to sensuality, so to indulge in every kind of impurity with a continual lust for more. Right? Does that not describe the current culture that we are in? This was the culture that Paul was in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd century, and yet it's pretty much exactly the same. People just do whatever they want to do and whatever they want to do it, and it leads to really, really bad consequences. But he goes on to say, you, however, believer, did not come to know Christ that way. You've heard of him. You were taught in accordance with the truth that is in Jesus. You were taught with regard to the former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by deceitful desires, and to be made new in the attitude of your minds, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. This is the good news of the gospel, that we have Christ Jesus, who can change us from the inside out, get rid of our old self, put on our new self. It really makes us a new person. This is why Jesus says you have to be born again, because the way that you are born, the born this way, is ultimately a problem. It's never going to work out well, because we are not meant to live in the way of this world. We're meant to live in the way of Christ. I hope that's how you live today and always. For Church Public, I'm Ed Odegaard, and of course, I hope that you will keep the faith.